Welcome to the Boxing Gossip channel. Please hit subscribe if you are new. Right, this is a video to discuss my thoughts on the Lucas Browne versus Dillian Whyte gloves are off. I did a review of the Joshua Parker gloves are off the other day and people seem to be interested in it, so I thought, why not, let's do one for Lucas Browne versus Dillian Whyte. Look, this is a lesser fight than Joshua Parker. Parker and Joshua are currently operating at a higher level than Lucas Browne and Dillian Whyte. But for me, Browne and Dillian Whyte are probably more entertaining characters and probably better to watch in these kind of programs. So, if you wanted to watch one of the two purely from an entertainment perspective, I'd be advising you to watch this one. The most notable thing I took from this wasn't anything that either man said. The most notable thing I took from this programming was the size of Lucas Browne. Now, before people start educating me in the comment section below, I am aware this was filmed some time ago. I am aware this was filmed prior to Lucas Browne commencing his full training camp. But the size of Lucas Browne was pretty frightening in this gloves are off. And obviously I've seen him interviewed on IFL TV and I've seen him interviewed at the press conference, but it was the angle of the camera which was sort of above him and to the side, so you could literally see across Lucas Browne. And he is a guy who is absolutely massive, or at least he was massive going into this camp. Now, as someone who's watched Lucas Browne for quite a long time, there is a direct correlation between Lucas Browne's size and the type of performance that he puts in. We've seen Lucas Browne at his best against Ruslan Chagayev. In that fight, he came in light, he was able to move, he had speed, he was athletic, he could box. But time and time again, we've seen Lucas Browne come into fights far too heavy. And when that's happened, we've seen slow, plodding, ponderous performances. And my worry is that Lucas Browne was so heavy going into training camp for the Dillian Whyte fight that he's not going to be able to be in a position where he comes in premium condition. I just don't believe he has enough time to get himself into top level shape for this fight. At one point during the gloves are off, he actually sort of acknowledges it. He kind of says, I'm not going to be the same weight as I would be for the Chagayev fight, but even though I'll be heavier, I'll still be fit. Well, if we look at Browne's career to date, we've seen that when he comes in heavier, he does appear slow, he does appear ponderous, and for me that's a real problem, because in this fight, there'll be a prediction to come in short order in the next few days in this channel, but in this fight, I think if Browne doesn't have those advantages in terms of being able to box and move around Dillian Whyte, I think it's more likely to be Dillian Whyte's fight. So that is actually the thing that I took from this more than anything else, was the condition of Lucas Browne and just how much weight he is going to have to need to lose to even be in a respectable shape by the time the two guys get in the ring next week. Lucas Browne, keen to highlight his power throughout the course of this program, kept saying that he's got the power to take any man out, kept saying that he could be 11 rounds down on the scorecards, but that his power is always there. And there's no denying that Lucas Browne is a heavy-handed puncher. But from my perspective, Lucas Browne is no Deontay Wilder. He's no Anthony Joshua. He's not like a devastating, explosive one-punch knockout artist. He's heavy-handed, he's a big, solid guy, and he's got a good story. But he does not want to be going into this fight heavy, lose 11 rounds, and then be looking for that lottery punch in the last round. For me, that is not his best tactic going into the fight. I think that's relatively evident to say. And whilst he does carry power, in the words of Tony Bellew, who are the best people Lucas Browne's actually knocked out? I mean, the Chagayev knockout was impressive, but that was a far more dynamic, far more explosive, far snappier punching Lucas Browne than I think we're going to see in this fight, given the weight that I believe he's likely to come into the ring at. So, Lucas Browne clearly banking on his power. He comes across very well, though, all in all. He's a likeable guy. He's quite charismatic. His story about coming into boxing at 30 years old and just wanting to fight and trying cage fighting, trying kickboxing, trying boxing without doing any training at 30 is one that you don't really see too regularly at this level of the game. So fair play to him on that front. He makes no effort to try and present himself as a gangster or a hard man. He said he was from a middle-class family with loving parents, etc. you know, it's kind of sometimes nice to see someone be real about that rather than always trying to present themselves as the wannabe gangster. Dillian Whyte, he is the gangster. It is entertaining. You know, every time Dillian Whyte has a fight announced, he goes into this mode of hating his opponent, of slating his opponent, and of making threats to his opponent, telling them he knows where he lives, telling them that they'll fight outside the ring, etc. It was no different this time round. Dillian Whyte talks about fighting his brother on the street, talks about sometimes getting into scraps with his brother and the two of them just going at it. He talks about what will happen if Lucas Browne dares to punch him in the face outside of the ring in my hometown. He does his rant about the performance-enhancing drugs and blames Lucas Browne over and over and over again for going off on performance-enhancing drugs. I don't know why it doesn't seem to see the irony. You know, he's calling Lucas Browne an absolute imbecile for failing the second drugs test, for buying an over-the-counter supplement. Now, perhaps Dillian Whyte is dubious to be suspicious of, you know, that test that Lucas Browne failed the second time round. But nevertheless, there is a little bit of irony there that Dillian Whyte is going in on Lucas Browne and, you know, appearing like the High Court judge on the situation, given that he himself failed the performance-enhancing drugs test for buying a pre-workout over-the-counter supplement. So make of that what you will. Two engaging characters, two likeable guys. And, you know, they're guys who, for me, I find more entertaining to listen to than Joshua Parker. Johnny Nelson came out with something that I disagree with, and I'll pick it up here as an aside. You know, Johnny Nelson, I've heard say this before in interviews. He said, performance-enhancing drugs do not make you a better fighter. And I've seen Nelson reference this before, that he's beaten 3 performance-enhancing drugs cheats. So how can it make you a better fighter? Well, firstly, I think the logic there is flawed. Nelson may have beaten them a hell of a lot easier if they weren't on performance-enhancing drugs. And, yeah, secondly, I've got to say I flat disagree with Johnny Nelson on that. You know, totally disagree with him. So, look, what performance-enhancing drugs won't do is give you better technique. I think that's obvious. If you don't know how to throw a jab, start taking steroids. You're not just going to learn how to throw a jab. And maybe that's what Johnny Nelson's referring to. But from my limited understanding of performance-enhancing drugs, can they give you increased muscle mass? Yes. Can they give you increased stamina? Yes. Can they make you lighter so you can enter the ring as a more mobile, more explosive fighter? Yes. Are there some indicators that they can give you increased durability? Yes. You know, look at guys like Erkan Tepe. Look at how devastating Erkan Tepe looked. Comes off the performance-enhancing drugs and, you know, he becomes easy meat within the heavyweight division. And there's other examples of fighters that you can reference from that as well. So, you know, I think Johnny Nelson's absolutely flat wrong that performance-enhancing drugs don't make you a better fighter. They maybe don't make you a better technician, but the attributes that they can give you can certainly lead to improved performances in the ring. And, you know, for me, that is one of the many ingredients that makes this fight so such an interesting equation. You know, we've got Lucas Browne. His best form, for me, is above Dillian Whyte's best form. At his best, I've seen Lucas Browne box better than I've seen Dillian Whyte box. But Lucas Browne is old. He's inactive. His more recent fights have been linked to failed performance-enhancing drugs tests. And you've got to ask yourself, how good is the Lucas Browne going to be who steps into the ring against Dillian Whyte? You know, you look at the weight he's in, look at the shape he's in, look at the weight he's carrying around with him, you factor in his age, you factor in the fact that he's been so inactive, factor in the fact that his best performances at least have an open question mark against them because of the performance-enhancing drugs controversy. And I do maintain it is an open question whether the Lucas Browne who steps into the ring you know, is half the fighter of the Lucas Browne who stepped into the ring with Ruslan Chagayev, for example. But anyway, it's an enthralling fight, lots of good subplots. You know, Dillian Whyte, one thing he can do is sell a fight, and you know, by the time this fight comes around next Saturday, I'm sure that you, like myself, will be buzzing for it, looking forward to it. It will be by far the biggest win of Dillian Whyte's career if he's to get the job done here. He starts as a favourite. My prediction will be coming soon on the channel. Let me know your thoughts on this programming, guys. Did you like it? Let me know your thoughts on any of the comments I've made. Hit me up in the section below where you can add your comments. As always, please like the video by clicking the thumbs up button if you appreciate what I'm doing, and please take the time to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks for tuning in.